Hi, I'm Tep, and today on CBTB, we're actually going to get to hear a little bit of a pre-release experience. CB had a chance to participate in the Hobbit pre-release, and yeah, we'll see how he did and what experiences he had. So, CB, why don't you tell us a little bit, like, where did you go? When did you go? How was it?
Yeah, thanks, Tab. So I went and attended a pre-release here in Charlotte, North Carolina at Get Some Game. Shout out to Get Some Game, my local LGS that I like to go to. They do a great job there, so keep doing what you're doing, guys. I had a great time going to Get Some Game, and we had a pre-release on Friday, the 4 o'clock one. I like going to the early one because it's a few less people typically. And I think I mean, it was 3 rounds of people playing against each other. So we must have had at least, I think, between 10 to 12 people there. I didn't really count. I was so focused on what I was doing. And yeah, so 3 rounds of just pre-release with The Hobbit, and it was a great experience, actually. I had a great time going there. Highly recommend it for everyone.
I don't know how big the Magic community actually is in the North Carolina, or specifically Charlotte area. In previous instances, was it about the same, or does it depend on the day when it is?
Including this one, I've done 3 pre-releases there, and no, so there's typically a lot of stuff going on there where people playing Pokemon at the same time, doing Yu-Gi-Oh in the other side. It's just that the pre-release was comparatively small, and that's largely because I like it that way personally. Going to the 4 o'clock on a Friday, most people still at work, so anybody who can knock off early or whatever, I don't know, whatever everyone does. But I like to go to that one because there's less people, and I like that. If it's too much, then I just get crazy myself. So no, the LGS has been there for quite some time. They do a great job, and so. It wasn't that it was badly attended or anything like that. It's just I like to go to the earlier one. There was a second pre-release later at 8 o'clock, which had quite a few more people, Friday night going into it. And I deliberately didn't stay for it. I mean, we could have a whole talk about what do you do after pre-release? Like I couldn't sleep even though I decided to only do one this time. Typically, I like to go for one, two, and then do a draft afterwards, but I just can't manage that anymore. I just get too riled up. So that's why I decided to only do one, but they had more people afterwards. And as far as the Charlotte area community for Magic, there's quite a lot of Magic going on. Magic's big, but I wouldn't have any specific metrics for you there. Truth is, if you want to go play, there's Commander, there's stuff all over the place. But yeah, so for this pre-release, we just had about, it was 10 to 12 people. Maybe there was more. Like I said, I'm so focused on what I'm trying to do at that time.
Did you open anything exciting? What was your pre-release pack like? Did you get a good promo? Anything exciting to talk about, like on initial open of the packs?
Yeah, so actually, on the matter of the promo, I have to confess that I actually forgot to open my promo for my first pre. I did two. And so here's the thing. I did 2 pre-releases. I did one on Friday and I went back for another one, the early one on Sunday. And on Friday, long story short, I had a challenging time overall. We'll get more into it, but I'm sure part of it was that I still have my promo nicely wrapped up here. So, Tap, that'll be a nice treat at the very end. We'll open this and you can see what would have been my promo for the first one. So it's right here. It'll be a little treat to us. But that's what happened to me. But other than that, yes. So what happened is on the Friday 4 o'clock one, I actually opened all of my 6 packs and right away together, and I pulled a couple of really cool ones. And I actually ended up with an interesting card pool, and that was that I had enough cards to essentially make 2 decks. Um, and so it's a smaller set, right? The Hobbit's a smaller set, and so you can end up with they have like archetypes in it. So in the archetypes they had were humans in white blue, goblins in black red, wolves in black green, dwarfs in red white, and elves in green blue. And so what I ended up with in my first set was a whole bunch of um, cards in both black and green, and then also in red and white. And so at the time, I couldn't quite distinguish how many cool things I had pulled. Um, but yeah, so just to say, so the funny thing about this one, this is not like, anyway, I pulled Smaug the Great Calamity, which is not a Not a rare or anything, it's a common, but pretty good card. So that was a good one I pulled. And then on the other red ones, I pulled basically all the cool dwarves. We got this one's Biffer, Melodic Rider, you know, and a bunch of these are also in two colors. I also pulled my mythic for that for the reds was the Gandalf here, Gandalf Goblin's Bane. So I thought I was pretty well set for doing this, and I also pulled a Gandalf Spark Starter, which is again not a um, particular rarity, but this was a cool treatment, and I figured it might work well together with the Goblin's Bane. Um, yeah, so that was the ones I pulled for in there, and I think other than that, I didn't have like grand things I necessarily pulled. There were some good uncommons in here. Like in the greens, I pulled a my I think my most valuable area was the Bejeweled Warg, which is a rare, and it gives you a bunch of different options. And I also pulled a couple of other good uncommons, which were like Down to Goblin Town and this elf card here, which was what are we looking at here? Here we go. The Mirkwood Pathmaker and down to Goblin Town. And the Mirkwood Pathmaker I pulled particularly, and I thought, this is cool because it gives you power based on how many lands you have. So in any case, I built those two decks. And so that means I had a dwarf deck and I had a wolves deck. And actually, I was short on time. So what basically happened is I went with the black and green deck to start. Um, and then when I didn't do well in the first round, I said, hey, if I have enough time, maybe I can quickly assemble this other deck, which I then did. So I ended up with the dwarf deck. Um, and then, so those are the two archetypes I ended up with on Friday. And there's a few cards which I didn't play, which after the fact, when I came back at night, I was like, I think I should have played these. So those are Thranduil, the Ascender Liege, and I had two Mirkwood Nurturers, and I had a couple of well-worn spatulas, and an old thrush. So all of these cards would have helped tremendously in my green and black deck, actually. And at the time, I just didn't really realize that. I didn't really think about it. But the truth is, in my wolves deck, rather than go ferocious, which is where your cards get an extra boost if you control a creature that has power 4 or more. Um, I didn't really get so much with that and ended up being more of a landfall deck. And so all these elves would have made a big difference. So, um, yeah, so I'm not sure if that answers your question. I think I might have gone over uh,
Well, it's a little. That's what I mean. Hindsight is 2020, and like understanding the different archetypes or interplay between things. Just because something is an archetype doesn't mean that other things might not benefit from it. Well, but you built two decks, and you already mentioned that you used one in round one, and then in between rounds you built the second one, which you had enough cards for. But in the end, how did you do overall in the 3 rounds? What was your record, and which of those two decks played better?
Yeah, so I think overall I did better with the dwarf deck, the sort of red white one, and honestly, my performance on that in that first pre-release was not very good. I ended up winning 1 out of 3 rounds, and most of the games took pretty long. I went to turns on 2 occasions on that actually, so. It was fun playing and everything, but I really couldn't come out, and I realized actually I was mana poor on in both decks each time that I played, even though I one time mulliganed all the way down to 4, which actually that was the round I won. So I mulliganed down to 4 and I won that round. So it really was a matter of mana largely, and this is also why I realized, I looked afterwards, like an old thrush gives you ability to gain life and to actually even search for a card. So um, and that's when I realized, again, after the fact, that I only had one win. I won a pack. That's what the LGS does there. But then I afterwards thought, there are actually a bunch more cards that I didn't read carefully enough that could have really helped me. So the Old Thrush is one because it lets me search for any basic land card. didn't include it. And there's a really cool card called the Hobbit Hole that's in this. And the part that I didn't hear, it's like I was so focused on it. They have a part on it called Halfling Cycling 4, and then I can pay 4 mana and discard this card to search my library for a Halfling card. I was like, I don't have any Halflings. This is not worth it. And I totally didn't realize that it allows me to just like, or maybe I didn't think about it, but it allows me also to search for a basic land card. And then especially in the landfall deck, I can enter the Hobbit Hole, landfall. I can tap it, sacrifice it, get another landfall. So, it was really down to that. So I unfortunately only won one round. And so it was a little bit like that, which is also one small reason why I decided, I really should go back. I don't want it to just stand there because I knew I was going to report about this afterwards and I wanted to have something else. I was determined when I went back the next day to do this differently. Yeah.
Well, okay. So based on your performance, you saw some things, and then hindsight is 2020. You made some adjustments, and you reread the cards and came to a conclusion. So you decided to go back. I'm assuming that the cards you showed us so far were not from day two. So why don't you tell me like, did you go back the next day, and what did you find there in your packs? What did you decide to do then?
Yeah, so I did not go back the next day. I went back on Sunday. So I went Friday. I had a day of rest. We had a birthday here at home, celebrated that. And then I went back on Sunday again for the early part. Went back to the same LGS. And then we had, again, probably about 10, 12, maybe some few more people there. And yeah, this time I had more of an action plan. It's like, okay, I've seen some of the comments, I've seen how stuff plays. Let's open it up. And then so um, I didn't realize I hadn't opened my promo from the first day until I got to the second day. So I deliberately kept it close, but I was like, I definitely have to open my promo, right? So anyway, so I'm going through and I'm going to show you just a few big ones that I pulled. Um, so I think definitely the quote unquote best card I feel I pulled on the second day was I actually got Radagast of the Rogobel. So this is such a great card. It's a beautiful rare. And what's funny is I really wanted to go back and I was hoping I could play elves because remember I didn't play elves the first day. So I was like, okay, if I can do elves, I'll do elves because landfall, it's going to be great. And then when I opened the second pack, I ended up with hardly any elf stuff. But there was again all this black stuff, right? And also all the green things. So Radagast was my biggest pull, I think. I also pulled a Glamdring the Foehammer. Yeah, which is pretty cool. Um, and then I pulled a Through the Forest Gate. So through the forest gate, really interesting because it allows me it's a sorcery and it costs 8, so it's super expensive. So it's like, oh, I don't know about that, but it allows me to look at the top 20 cards of my library and put any number of land cards from among them onto the battlefield, tapped, and then shuffle, and I gain 8 life. So that was one, and then I got Head of the Hunt, which is just a rare, I believe, but it gives me ferocious and it's flash, and it's one of those things which allows me to exile cards rather than have them die for my opponent. And when I do, I create a wolf, a 2/2 green wolf. So those are pretty great. There was also a card in there which is not super valuable, but very cool to play, and that is the long-bodied gray dog. And I was thinking about this because on our last video, you actually talked about loving Tolkien and talking about something about a dog and long hair, whatever. So I kept it. And newsflash, it's got flash and it's got reach. Um, and yeah, so those were the cool ones I pulled. There's a couple other cool ones. But maybe just one I want to highlight is the Rovian Rampager. How do you pronounce this? Rovian Rampager.
Yeah,
And you're
Rampage.
rampaging.
Mhm.
Yeah. And so this will come into play later, I'll tell you. But yeah, so other than that, it was a bunch of other cool stuff. But these are the main ones I pulled. This time I had a bunch of old thrushes. I put them in. And so here's the thing. These were the big pulls, right? But basically, what I realized is that I have usually an issue with creatures. And what I was able to do in this one here is I was able to include a bunch of red cards because I had two red thrushes and I had two hobbit holes. So I was like, I'm not going to make the same mistake as the first day. And I realized actually I can include a bunch of my cool red cards, including some legendary dwarfs. So the second day, I essentially built another wolf stack, no elves, but I could splash the dwarfs. So I splashed three dwarves and I splashed the sorcery tidings of war, Oin the Brave. So a few red ones. And then I was able to include some cards like Goblin Town, which is black red, right? And so mana poor was a matter of the past. I was very happy. And I was able to combo all of that because I pulled a Bjorn's Hospitality, which has landfall and also allows me to convert him into a bear. Okay, so I looked at all this and I basically said, I'm going to go with that. And there was also a sub theme here in that there's this whole thing called amass. Where you can amass. In the original set, I think it was amass orcs, like in the original Lord of the Rings set, and now here for this one, it's amass goblins. And so there's a bunch of stuff like there's the down to Goblin Town, and then there's some armor that allows you to amass more orcs, like basically make a goblin army. Sorry, not orcs, goblin army. And so I actually played two down to Goblin Towns in this. And there was also a thing in here that um, allowed me. Where is it? I can't find it now. In any case, there's so much cool stuff. I have to get into this some other time. But yeah, here it is: Gathering of Darkness, which also allows you to amass. So and you return a card from your graveyard back to your hand. So very, very cool. So I basically had the sub deck. I had a few dwarfs to put in, and I was able to do the goblin army, and I was able to search for cards. So even though it was a wolf deck, I actually splashed red, and so I was really psyched about that. And then remember how I said that I'm definitely going to open my promo, right? Like I definitely should open my promo, right? But I didn't. I forgot to open my promo, but I was talking to the guy in front of me, and just as we're about to like start, like I'm sleeving up, I'm like, oh, here it is again. And he's like, well, open it. And I was like, oh, it's a little less. No, you can open it. And then, that. So I opened it and I got a gigantic big bear. So the gigantic big bear, 10/7, 4/7, and it can't be countered, and it's hexproof, and it's got haste. So last minute, last second, really, I was like, oh, what do I throw out? And I threw out a base card, simple basic thing, and put this in. And yeah, I did a little better on the second day.
What was your record on the second day?
So on the second day, I ended up winning 2 rounds, but I only went to turns once, and I actually won more games for those rounds. Yeah, and it was really cool, especially the third round. I had like my favorite play, which I'll tell you maybe a little bit more about later. But basically, like, yeah, I ended up.
Why don't you tell us about that now? So like, I mean, if you had your favorite play, I mean, I'd be excited to hear what were you able to pull off, and were you able to win with it or after it?
Right. So the short answer is I'll put it right up front. Yes, I was able to win with it. It was really cool. I was playing in my last game. I was playing against a really nice guy, and we just it was like a good game. And he was basically countering everything I was doing. He even had a Smaug out, like the Smaug I showed earlier, right? And so he was flying big, and he was making him bigger. He was attaching spatulas to Smaug. He was just huge, and I was like, oh my goodness. So first thing I did is I was able to play the long-bodied gray dog, which then I was able to counter Smaug because he's got reach, which is great. Nice feeling. But the big play in the end, it was funny because the game ended up so much back and forth. I even played through the forest gate and I put all my lands on. I had very few cards left. The cool thing that ended up happening is I have a really hard time sacrificing stuff, right? Like any game we play, it's like it's in play. I don't want to kill anybody. There it is. And I was like, I think I really need to go hard on this. So the Rovian Rampager was on the field, and one of my dwarves was on the field. I think it was, yeah, Dory, Bearer of Friends, was on the field. And then I had already, Dory had already 2+1/+1 counters on it. So Dory is a 5/4 at this point. I have Rovian Rampager, and I am now playing Reverend Howl. So I played Reverend Howl to target creature gets +2/+2 and gains life link until end of turn. So I was down on my life count. I really needed life. What I did is I gave my Rovian Rampager +2/+2, and then I sacrificed Dory. So so I went to attacks and I attacked with the Rovian Rampager. I sacrificed Dory, which gave him more +1/+1 counters, three more +1/+1 counters. So counted, my Rovian Rampager was a 10 attack, and he had lifelink. So I smashed that into a death touch creature that he had already all souped up. And then because I did that, so of course the creature died, but on the Rovian Rampager, when this creature dies, amass goblins X, where X is this creature's power. So I smashed into him with a 10. He killed me with the death touch. I gained 10 life, and I got a goblin army with 10 on it. And so that was the big play at the end, and I was able to actually then win. And it was basically after that turn when he looked through and he said, like, I got nothing left here at this point. Good game. So that was my big win takeoff. Yeah, I was super happy about it. Yeah.
That's nice, but no, I mean, it's great that you were able to see it and pull it off. So, but yeah, I mean, playing black, you got to learn to love seeing everything as a resource, even your life total, right? As long as you have one left, you can do something, right? I think that was a good play, and I mean, you opened up some good cards in that second pool. I mean, the combination of the first pool versus the second pool, I think you did rather well. I saw a bunch of cards that I'm excited to get my hands on at some point, especially Radagast and that Through the Forest Gate. Those are on my radar. For one specific deck, I'm pretty sure you know which one. It's my mono green stumpy deck, just big dumb creatures. And yeah, I think Through the Forest Gates is, well, I think it's a huge amount of value. So glad to see that you open it. We were able to use it and then also swing that game in your favor. So I mean, so you went 2-1 in. So you won two rounds and you lost one on your second time around. But you won more games. You didn't go to time, and you were able to sort of like solidify a certain strategy. That's great. Um, yeah, I would have loved to have been there and to see that happening actually. Um, Now, that was your play experience, but opening the cards, well, was there anything that you were excited about, like something that, yeah, I mean, you liked the Lord of the Rings movies at the very least, and The Hobbit. I don't know how much of the books you've read. Did you feel like anything particularly exciting while opening these cards, besides them, of course, being new cards? Like anything you were very excited about opening or seeing or reading, and just imagining things in your head with them? Anything like that?
Oh yeah, for sure. So I mean, I know the Lord of the Rings rather well. I've read all the books. I've read all the appendices. I've watched all the movies. I've watched all the appendices. I've watched the movies with all the commentaries twice. So yeah, I'm definitely a big Lord of the Rings fan. I love fantasy, and I'm watching the Amazon show, so it's great. And yeah, so also Lord of the Rings is basically the set I got started with in Magic. I got the original Commander precons as like a gift from someone when I was looking to get into Magic. And, having done three pre-releases now, one was the Secrets of Strixhaven, which that's in universe, right? And then I went back for the Marvel superheroes set. Going from Marvel superheroes into this, it's like it's so wonderful the experience because I wasn't particularly interested in the Marvel superhero set as a set. Um, because I feel like, okay, superheroes, I like it, but for magic, I'm really thinking what's magic and whatnot, right? So with The Hobbit, yeah, like you look at all the art, you look at everything, it just fits so nicely, just like the original Lord of the Rings stuff fit, right? It's like you're playing it, you're reading the cards, flavor text is nice, the art is spot on. It just feels like it's a fantasy set, so it's so nice, And you get your little pre-release set, right? A little pre-release kit. And here's just the thing. So you open it up, and I always like to keep these. People like tend to throw all these away, but I usually like to keep them because in the end I like to cut out all the art for like dividers and stuff. And one thing they did on this thing, which I thought was really cool, is that if you can see this, this is the Hobbit hole door, right? And it actually opens. So you can. I thought it's just a door, but actually this pops out. You want to guess what it is?
Is it
Huh?
the ring?
No, it's better. It's a food token.
Food token. That's
And I thought
awesome.
that is just so nice. Um, and it's like neat. There's a little flavor text behind it. It says, "Far over the misty mountains grim, to dungeon deep and caverns dim, we must away ere break of day to win our happy hearts and gold from Heim." So that's written behind there. Really, really cool. I have absolutely no qualms about including any part of this in any of my Magic stuff. People were opening stuff around me, people were buying bundles, people were buying stuff, right? And so it's like anytime someone didn't want to hold on to a little piece of art or something, I snagged it up. I got this thing here is from the bundle, or I think it's from a playbox, whatever, and it shows like the little, the what do you call them? The archetypes for the set, and I just love all of it. So yeah, and so I have like a bunch of cardboard I need to cut out. So yeah, I think all of it was really cool. I think there's an interesting collectability what I started doing when I did my dwarf deck because I'm like, oh, I wonder if I can get all the dwarfs. How many dwarf can I get a Dwalin? Can I get a Oin? Can I get a Gloin? So like you go like, oh, how many out of all of these do I have? So very neat. And actually, I didn't even see all the cards. Like, I mean, I went to two pre-releases, six packs, whatnot. You imagine you see a lot of it, but there was still more stuff that I didn't see. And people pulled cool stuff, like the book covers, and then, there was a Goblin King in there, and then a couple of Arkenstones got pulled. No one pulled a Gold Dragon, but it's like and it's just so much fun. It really was very great. And like I said, I wanted to show that off because I think how cool is that, right? You have hobbits, and then you make a little food token out of it. I also wanted to show this off. So they have these tokens, right? One of the mechanisms in this, I think it's an old one, like adventure. I'm not sure you could go on adventures before in other sets, right? But what they did is they made this little card here called On an Adventure, right? So you basically just, and it's with the Bilbo, so you just put it on the table, and then if you played for the adventure, you just put the card on top, and then you have this one here for like an enduring story if you end up having like the storied mechanic from the dwarves. So overall, it felt really cozy. It felt very magic. It felt just really nice. Like it just, you don't, I enjoyed going to my pre-release for the Marvel superheroes, for example, right? But it didn't feel as magic-y to me, which I guess makes sense. I felt more like I was in a comic book store that weekend. So I guess in that sense, kudos on them for doing that as well. But yeah, so these are all things. There's cool flavor text on a bunch of these. Here on Dwalin, it says the company had lost a great deal, but they had killed the Great Goblin and many others besides. All in all, they had the best of it. So, and it's all throughout, on the through the forest gate. Well, here's Mirkwood, the greatest of the forests of the northern world. I hope you like the look of it. Supposedly Gandalf said it. So, yeah, I think it's so great. Um, I was sad that there aren't more pre-releases all the time, or that I can't go to all of them. Um, it's a great set. It's a lot of fun for sure. Would go again.
Right. I mean, you'll have more chances, right? So there's more sets coming out all the time and more frequently now. So maybe you'll get your wish of more pre-releases all the time. Some people might not like that frequency, though. But you can always go to a draft, right? So I imagine the draft experience for the Hobbit will be similar, given that it's a smaller set, so you can really hone in on the different strategies and potentials, which is different from a bigger set where you have to rely a little bit more on the RNG aspect of it. But before we close this off, you had something that you wanted to open.
Yes. So since I didn't remember to open my promo for the first day, let's do that right here. So I'll put it right here open so we can see. So there's a token here at the back. So this also has the some full art land cards in it. All right, here we go. And I'll open it towards you and the camera so you can, hopefully we get it together. So here we got the planes. More planes. In the Four Seasons, basically, that's the idea. Okay, so we should be, next one, Elven Passage. Nice. In foil. Pay 1 life, sacrifice this land, search your library for a basic land card, put it onto the battlefield, tap, then shuffle. You may behold an elf. If you do, untap that land.
Nice. That is similar to what Fabled Passage, which is another fetch land for basic lands, it does. Well, very flavorful, very nice.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, at some point in the future, eventually, maybe when we're in the same hemisphere, we will go to a pre-release together at some point. Yeah, great to hear that you had a good experience and that the place always is welcoming and has a good amount of yeah, well, ambiance, if you will. So yeah, yeah. Anything else you wanna tell us before we sign off for today?
No, just to say it was a really great pre-release and the Hobbit set's awesome. Play it, collect it. If anybody else has any comments or anything that you guys played in your pre-release, let us know in the comments. I was very glad to go, so let us know what you thought. And then I look forward to playing another one with you sometime. And yeah, nothing else. It was really great. Thanks, everyone.
Well, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.